Alright, today we're diving into a bizarre story where a construction worker unexpectedly discovers 3 corpses. Imagine that, it's not your typical renovation. And on their dinner table, there were the reproductive organs harvested during their lifetime. This killer's methods sound like a horror movie, but don't worry, the cops are on it. Our main guy Carl and his assistant rush to the scene, launching a detective show featuring corpses. The coroner said the mummies were special. Carl noticed a tipped over chair at the scene, suggesting more guests were supposed to be here. Why did the killer leave only 3 bodies? Police quickly identified a female victim named Neat, whose exit was traced back to 12 years ago. Talk about it disappearing. The coroner revealed that the body had been dehydrated and all internal organs removed. Just how deep must this hatred run? The cause of death. The coroner suggested it could be due to an overdose of heavenly fairy, not your typical anesthetic. In small doses, it's like pistachios, but overdose brings agony, gifting our 3 victims with suffering. The coroner mentioned one male victim who faced a real tragedy, possibly having his reproductive organ removed while alive. After hearing the coroner's analysis, Carl felt a chill down his spine, realizing this was no accident, but a meticulously planned murder. Carl sensed deep hatred from the 3 bodies, but with the case 12 years old, truth won't be easy to find. The only confirmed suspect is Charles, who, according to our leads, was once a nurse before moving on to special. Charles was let go for some extreme behavior and later worked at a funeral home. He surely knew how to keep corpses mysterious. Upon investigation, Charles seemed to have vanished for years but kept paying rent, probably to avoid unexpected visits. Based on available clues, all evidence pointed to Charles, and the captain immediately issued a warrant. But wouldn't you know it, things are never that simple. Oddly enough, the killer seemed unwilling to hide the victims' identities, finding their ID at the scene. Talk about a heartbreak. The ID of 2 victims were confirmed except one female's blurry one. Was the killer too careless? The captain looked at the photo of a male victim named Philip, feeling a sense of familiarity. Little did he know, Carl had an old case in mind. The captain had dealt with Philip's case only a few weeks before it wrapped up. Was his destiny playing tricks? Strange enough, not long after the case was filed, Philip's wife Mara retracted it. Talk about a quick disappearance. She claimed Philip wasn't missing but had run off with his lover. Is she bending the truth here? When they found Maya, she said she retracted the case because she received an email from Philip. She claimed Philip emailed her saying not to look for him anymore because he had run off with another woman. Carl showed her Charles' profile, hoping Maya could spot a connection, and surprisingly, she did. Glancing at the women's rehab center where Charles once worked, Maya noted there were many lawsuits against the place. Philip was the defense attorney in one of those cases, but Maya couldn't quite remember whom he was defending. It was too long ago. But at least Carl and the gang could confirm that Philip's death was likely linked to that women's rehab center. Back at the precinct, Ruse informed Carl that they finally identified the last mummy as Lita. However, Ruse searched all records but found no public hearing documents regarding that rehab center. This made Ruse begin to suspect that Maya might have gotten something wrong, but just at the very moment when he was preparing to leave. He suddenly discovered Charles had an address in Spain and a Spanish bank account that paid rent every 6 months. Carl deduced that after killing the 3 victims, Charles sealed them into the wall and then fled to Spain. He then used Philip's identity to email his wife. But if that's the case, what could have been Charles' motive? To unveil the truth, Carl and his team required crucial evidence that connected Charles to all the deceased. Yet even the bank account they traced had been cancelled. Clearly, Charles was covering his tracks well. Ruse and his assistant finally traced Charles' connection to 2 of the corpses through that women's rehabilitation center. They found that victims Neat and Lita were patients at the rehab center, but the link between Charles and Philip remained unclear. Carl and the team quickly headed to the defunct rehab center in search of more clues. They found an expert who used to work there, and he told them the heavenly fairy plants grew like a little garden. He also said island girls once saw hempane as a happiness source, as potent as marijuana. He then guided Carl and the gang through the rehab center, sharing the chilling tales of the past. He described it as a rehab center, but in reality, it functioned like a prison. The girls were treated like the doctors resembled prison guards detaining those free-spirited girls. It was a colossal joke, These girls had committed no crimes, yet they endured endless inhumane torment. And this rehab center even had the local government's blessing. How bizarre and ridiculous. As Carl and his group listened intently to the fat guy's story, a chilling shiver ran through them. Following the center's closure, numerous lawsuits poured in, but they were all harshly dismissed by the judge. This explains why Carl and the gang couldn't find any records in the archives. They had been erased completely. Carl and his assistant headed to the National Archive, finally discovering a record associated with the rehab center. The record revealed a female victim had sued a doctor named Kurt, who was none other than Philip's defense attorney.